Imagine you're a 3-star general. You've served 35 years, commanded thousands, made life or death decisions worth billions. Your pension, $180,000 a year. Respectable. Now imagine this, 2 months after you retire. Lockheed Martin calls. They offer you $1.2 million annually. To do what? To call your former colleagues. The ones still deciding which weapons to buy. Legal, perfectly legal. Ethical, that's the trillion-dollar question. Because here's the thing, they don't want you to know. 70% of generals who retire end up working for defense contractors. That's not corruption. That's a success rate of a system designed to work exactly this way. This isn't politics. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is math, documented by the GAO, the Pentagon's own Inspector General, and POGO's investigation of over 1,700 officials. Today, we're going to examine the 5 gears of the Pentagon's revolving door machine. The golden parachutes, the cooling-off charade, the weapons approval pipeline, the $60 million influence machine, and the self-dealing ecosystem that keeps it all spinning. By the end, you'll understand why defense contracts always seem over budget, why weapons programs never get cancelled, and who's really cashing in on your tax dollars. Let's start with the most jaw-dropping number in Washington. In 2018, the Project on Government Oversight, known as POGO, published a landmark investigation. They spent years tracking what happens to senior Pentagon officials after they leave government service. They followed 1,700 officials, generals, admirals, acquisition executives, the people who decide how America spends its $800 billion annual defense budget. The findings were staggering. 70% of 3- and 4-star generals went to work for defense contractors within 2 years of retirement. But here's the number that should really concern you: 90% of senior acquisition officials, the people who literally sign the contracts for weapons systems, joined the companies they used to regulate. Think about that. 9 out of 10 people who approve defense contracts end up working for the companies they approved contracts for. That's not a leak in the system. That's the plumbing. Let me show you how this works with a composite example based on POGO's data. A 3-star general retires after 35 years. His final assignment, overseeing the Air Force's $200 billion procurement budget. He decides which jets get funded, which missiles get ordered, which contractors get billion-dollar deals. His government pension, $184,000 per year. Solid middle-class income for life. But then the phone rings. It's a major defense contractor. They offer him a position as strategic advisor. The salary, $1.2 million. His job description is vague. Strategic advice, industry consultation, government relations. His actual job, using his relationships, calling the people who replaced him, opening doors that would otherwise stay closed. Now, you might be thinking, isn't this illegal? Aren't there rules against this? Yes, there are rules. The system has a safety valve called cooling-off periods. A 2-year ban on directly lobbying your former office. Sounds reasonable? Right. There's just one problem. The loopholes in these rules are big enough to fly an F-35 through. And that's exactly what happens. Which brings us to the charade that makes this all possible. Let's talk about these ethics rules. On paper, they look tough. Retired generals face a 2-year cooling-off period before they can lobby their former office. Sounds like a real barrier. Right. In practice, GAO Report 21-104311 found that enforcement is almost non-existent. The Pentagon doesn't track where officials go after retirement. They don't investigate violations. And when violations are discovered, The penalties are a slap on the wrist. But the real problem isn't enforcement. It's the loopholes. Loophole number 1. You can't lobby your former office. But you can lobby every other office in the Pentagon. So a general who oversaw Navy procurement can immediately start lobbying the Air Force. He can call Army acquisition officials the day after he retires. The weapons systems don't care which branch signs the check. A company building a radar system. That system might be used by all 4 branches. The general just can't call his specific former office. Everyone else is fair game. Loophole number 2. The rules ban lobbying contacts. But they don't define what counts as lobbying. So you can't walk into the Pentagon and formally request a meeting to discuss a contract. But you can run into your former deputy at an industry conference and have a casual conversation. You can play golf with your successor and mention how great your new employer's products are. You can attend the same dinner parties and share your personal opinions. None of that counts as lobbying. It's all informal networking. Guess what actually influences decisions? The informal stuff. Loophole number 3 is my favorite. It's the most obvious. And yet it's completely legal. The 2-year ban covers direct communication. But you can immediately start advising the company's actual registered lobbyists. You can sit in strategy meetings. You can tell them exactly what to say, who to call, and which buttons to push. You can review their talking points. You can suggest timing. Your knowledge is for sale. Your Rolodex is for sale. Your decades of institutional knowledge are for sale. Only your voice is temporarily unavailable. And even that's only for calls to one specific office. The cooling off period isn't a barrier. It's a speed bump with a drive around. It's a rule designed to look like regulation while allowing business as usual. But here's what really should concern you. The revolving door doesn't just start spinning after retirement. The real magic happens before generals take off the uniform. Here's the part that should make you angry. Generals don't wait until retirement to start their second career. According to Senator Elizabeth Warren's landmark study on the revolving door, the positioning starts years before they hang up the uniform. Think about it from the general's perspective. You're 58 years old. You've spent your entire adult life in the military. You have no private sector experience. Your skills are highly specialized. And you know, everyone knows, that in 2 to 3 years, you're going to need a new job. Who's going to hire a retired general for $1 million a year? Defense contractors. That's who. So here's how the positioning works. A general is overseeing a $50 billion weapons program. Let's say it's a new fighter jet. He knows the contractor. He knows their executives personally. They've worked together for years. He also knows he's retiring in 24 months. So when questions arise about the program, cost overruns, technical problems, schedule delays, how does he respond? Does he blow the whistle? Does he demand accountability? Does he recommend cancellation? Or does he defend the program? Does he tell Congress that the problems are expected development challenges? Does he argue that cancellation would be devastating to national security? Remember, the contractor watching him testify is the same contractor who might offer him $1.2 million in 2 years. Senator Warren's report found this pattern repeated across dozens of major weapons programs. Step 1. Officials oversee contracts with specific companies. Step 2. They defend those contracts to Congress, even when problems emerge. Step 3. They retire within 2 to 4 years. Step 4. They join the same companies they defended. Step 5. They lobby to expand the same programs they used to oversee. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is documented. GAO has the records. POGO tracked the career paths. The pattern is undeniable. Now, here's the crucial thing. Nobody writes this down. There's no explicit quid pro quo. No one says approve my contract and I'll hire you. They don't have to. Everyone understands the implicit bargain. Be a team player while you're in uniform. Don't rock the boat. Don't cancel programs. Don't embarrass contractors. And when you retire, the doors will be open. It's not a conspiracy. It's an incentive structure. Every time a general defends a failing weapons program, ask yourself, is this defense based on military necessity, or is it a job interview? And once they're on the other side, the money machine really starts turning. Let's follow the money. The top 5 defense contractors: Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and General Dynamics spend more than $60 million per year on lobbying. That's not advertising. That's not R&D. That's money specifically spent to influence government decisions. $60 million. Every single year. Why would companies spend that much on lobbying? Because it works. The return on investment is astronomical. So, what does $60 million buy? It buys access. Former generals who still have the personal cell phone numbers of current Pentagon leaders. It buys knowledge. Former acquisition officials who know exactly how the procurement process works, where the pressure points are, and which arguments will be persuasive. It buys relationships. The kind of trust and familiarity that takes decades to build. You can't buy that from a recent college graduate. You can only rent it from someone who was on the inside. Open Secrets data shows that hundreds of registered defense lobbyists are former DoD officials. They don't hire these people for their technical expertise. They hire them for their Rolodex. And what's the return on that $60 million investment? Let me give you some examples. The F-35 program, $2 trillion in lifetime costs. The most expensive weapons program in human history. Decades late. Perpetually over budget. Still riddled with technical problems. And yet, it keeps getting funded. Billions more every year. Former generals on TV defending it. Former officials writing op-eds supporting it. The littoral combat ships, $22 billion for ships that the Navy itself admits don't work as intended. Ships that break down constantly. Ships that can't fulfill their original mission. Cancelled? No. Modified and continued. The Zumwalt destroyers originally planned to build 32 ships. So many problems that only 3 were completed. $22 billion for 3 ships, instead of 32. Major scandal. Not really. Just a quiet acknowledgement of changing requirements. Every one of these programs has generals turned lobbyists defending them. Every one of these programs employs former Pentagon officials. Every one of these programs continues to receive funding despite documented failures. Coincidence? The revolving door isn't about individual corruption. It's about making waste profitable. So why doesn't anyone stop it? Here's why the revolving door keeps spinning. The people who could reform it are the people who benefit from it. Think about who would need to change this system. Members of Congress who oversee defense. Many have major contractors in their districts. Thousands of jobs depend on those contracts. Voting against defense spending means voting against their own constituents' jobs. Pentagon leaders who could tighten ethics, rules. They're the ones who will use the revolving door next. Why would they close a door they plan to walk through? Presidents who could issue executive orders. They rely on generals and defense experts for national security advice. The same people who benefit from the current system. Every few years, someone proposes reform. Extend the cooling-off period to 5 years. Proposed and blocked. Ban contractor employment for flag officers entirely. Proposed. Watered down. Never implemented. Require disclosure of job negotiations while still in uniform. passed with so many exceptions it's meaningless. POGO has been documenting this for decades. The watchdog groups file reports. Journalists write exposés. Congressional hearings are held. And then, nothing changes. The reforms always fail because the people writing the rules are the people who will break them. Let me step back and show you the complete picture. This isn't about a few bad apples. This isn't about individual corruption. This is about a system where career advancement requires maintaining good relationships with contractors. Retirement wealth requires contractor employment. National security decisions are made by people who will soon work for the companies affected by those decisions. Every major weapons system is defended by people who will personally profit from its continuation. Every procurement decision is influenced by people whose future income depends on that decision. The revolving door isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. So what does this mean for you? Let me leave you with this. This isn't a scandal. This is the business model. The revolving door isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. The 70% isn't a failure rate. It's a success rate of a system built to convert public servants into private profiteers. The generals aren't corrupt. They're rational. They're responding to incentives that everyone in Washington understands. Every time you hear about a weapons program that's over budget, ask who benefits. Every time you hear about equipment that doesn't work, ask who approved this. Every time you wonder why the Pentagon has never passed an audit, 7 failures and counting, ask who's watching the money. And then ask, where did those watchers go after they retired? Follow the general. Follow the money. I'm not telling you this to make you angry, though you should be. I'm telling you this so you understand how the system works, because understanding the mechanism is the first step to demanding change. The revolving door exists because we let it exist, because we don't ask questions, because we trust the uniforms without examining the incentives behind them. If you want to understand where else your tax dollars disappear, check out my video on the F-35, the $2 trillion money pit that these same generals keep defending. Hit subscribe if you want more investigations like this. And drop a comment, did you know about the revolving door before today? Remember, in Washington, the door never stops spinning. The only question is, who's cashing in?